Fani Willis exposed. We have a 66-page supplemental filing from defense attorney extraordinaire Ashley Merchant. And this comes on the heels of a request from Fani to cancel the hearing. Fani said, we don't need to talk about our love affair, her and Nathan Wade's. But Judge McAfee said differently. And we're going to hear from him later on in a separate segment because the hearing is on. And he referenced this supplemental saying that this is some of the stuff that they're going to be talking about when Fani is back in court on Thursday. But we're going to see what is inside the supplemental, which really sheds some light, adds some details, adds some meat on the bone to this whole saga before we get reaction from elsewhere around Fulton County. But this is the filing. The case is the state of Georgia versus Michael Roman. But remember, Michael Roman is one of 19 other co-defendants. 4 co-defendants in Fulton County, the RICO case in Georgia, have already pleaded guilty, and this case is still moving forward. The hearing is scheduled for Thursday, the day after Valentine's Day, very apropos for our friends Nathan and Fani. So they're gonna, be having apparently probably a pretty tense Valentine's Day dinner, and then they're in court the next day. Oops. So state of Georgia, this is the response from defendant Michael Roman, and his attorney is Ashley Merchant. And you'll just notice at the top of this PDF on your screens, my friends, 122 pages. Woo! That's what we're talking about, right? That is a nice, hefty filing, and it's from Ashley Merchant. But here you can see lots of stuff as exhibits and as addendums. We're going to read the motion, but I just want to show you what it's referencing, so when they reference it, we know what they're talking about. This is a business record certification. We've also got some Vacation Express numbers here. We've got Nathan Wade transaction approved for, $3,800. Yeah, that's a pretty nice one. And all this is for the cruises, right? The Cruise Authority. Vacation Express. Guess who's here on American Airlines? Oops, there's Fani. There's Nathan. The Cruise Authority. Hyatt Regency Aruba and Casino. Are they gambling on Fulton County taxpayer dime? Vacation Express, right? All this stuff. It's all included. It just keeps coming out. They got the insurance plan. Oh, no, they didn't. They declined insurance. They're like, what are you, nuts? We're going. What's going to happen? Who's going to stop us? We're Fani and Nathan, right? So they don't need insurance. Get out of here with your insurance. So here's Ashley Merchant, and she's sending a bunch of emails back and forth, travel documents, and she's just got it all. Airfare information, right? All this stuff. Vacation Express. She's just digging into it. Here's some more travel documents. Wow, this looks nice. 3 nights accommodation, 1 king resort with an ocean view room. Isn't that just perfect? A European plan. Oh, that's nice, Fani. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hyatt Regency in Dutch Caribbean Aruba. That's real nice. As all these co-defendants are being prosecuted by your office, you're getting paid for that and sending it over to Nathan Wade, and then he is taking you on these cruises. So here's some more documents, right? Here's a cruise statement, and these are new. We haven't seen these before. So cruise package. Here's the Ship of the Seas. It's 4B, category 4B, which is a spacious ocean view balcony. And yeah, it might be an upgraded cabin. You never know. It leaves Miami. It goes, debarks in Miami, embarks and debarks. So, full circle comes on back. Look at these 2 names of the passengers. Wow. Nathan Wade and Fani Willis. Isn't that fun? $1,300. So $429 for 2 passengers. And yeah, it looks like a good deal. $500 a ticket for a 3-day cruise. Not too bad. So then they got to fly out of there. It's out of Miami. They got to fly from Georgia. And so here it looks like more arrivals and departures. All the cruise numbers. Here's another cruise statement. Maybe the same one. Passenger Miss Clara Bowman is someone else who's joining them, I guess. Maybe somebody's mom or something. But okay, so let's get right into it. So we know what they're referencing. We know what is coming. Here's the filing. From Ashley Merchant and defendant Michael Roman, moving to disqualify Fani Willis and to dismiss this case, the RICO indictment brought by Fani against Donald Trump and 18 other co-defendants, says comes now Michael Roman. And we now move to dismiss and disqualify Fani. Why? We need an evidentiary hearing. And as grounds, we've got the following things that we want to introduce to you. Here we start. They say, Your Honor, Judge McAfee, this court is faced with a monumental and historic task, deciding whether to disqualify Fani Willis, the elected DA, which is a huge position, right? I can't underemphasize this enough. The county attorney for the biggest county in Georgia is a big position. You're a county attorney in your most populous city anywhere, county anywhere, it's a big position. Hundreds of people, a lot of money, okay? Very, very powerful. Some people say it's like top 5 in a city, right? Maybe like right behind the governor. So it's big. Elected district attorney in a case involving the prosecution of a former president. It's wild. Now, this is unprecedented, they say. We are in uncharted waters. Roman, the defendant, understands that this is not an easy decision. Now, particularly given that this is an election year and we are living in a politically charged and a polarized time. Nonetheless, neither Mr. Roman nor the court Court has put us in this position. Okay, we're not responsible for this. Fani Willis has. And the important role and the function of the judiciary is to protect integrity, sanctity, and fairness in this process. Now, aside from the Constitution, this court and the rules it applies here are the principal guardrails to ensure that the judicial process in our democracy is fair and transparent. Now, our legal system was designed to ensure that before we get a verdict, that the defendant stands as an innocent man. You remember the presumption of innocence that we forgot about in this country? And the state has an obligation through a disinterested prosecutor to seek justice, not just a conviction. But when the lines get blurred between a prosecutor's, in this case Fani's, between her personal fame and her publicity and her public duty, well, the system breaks down, as does the public's confidence in the entire process itself. They say, Your Honor, the right to a fair trial is not trivial. It was not an afterthought or a catchphrase. It was rooted in the Sixth Amendment, made part of the Bill of Rights, which meant the founders knew it was pretty dang important. The founders also knew that to deprive a defendant of fairness in the criminal process would deny him of a right to a fair trial. And so we put those in there explicitly. We put them in the 4th, the 5th, and the 14th Amendments, which incorporated the lower level amendments. Now, in other words, the several individual rights of the founders believed they were necessary to a functioning democracy. That's why we have them. Now, especially in this case, these principles are even more important. Now, it matters not that this case is under a national and media microscope or that this case may garner any more attention. In light of the attention this case was expected to garner amongst the public, they had an obligation. They knew it was going to be a big deal, and they should have protected this even harder than any other case you could ever imagine. Absolutely true. But the state didn't do that. Instead, they went on cruises. It's like, hey man, you know that the whole country is going to be watching you with a microscope. You would make sure you didn't park over the line. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's pretty close. Like, am I touching that line? Yeah, I guess I am. I better move it because all of the scrutiny on you. Now here, they're going to Aruba. All right. So over the past several years, Fani has done the opposite. She's using the media to turn the screws on each one of the defendants, long before we had any jurors even called here. Now, these media appearances by a publicly elected prosecutor called Fani are incredibly improper. But more importantly, they were designed to tear down our client's rights. Now, this case should be and could have been tried on the evidence admitted at trial. But because of the actions of Fani, can't do that anymore, Judge. The damage is done. That's why there are specific rules to stop them from doing this. They're not supposed to get out and increase the public's condemnation before we even have any trial. That is why Fani and Wade must be disqualified. Now, it is evident, Your Honor, that Fani and her personally appointed Wade have enriched themselves off this case. Now, that enrichment has taken various forms, not the least of which is the incredible amounts of money that Nathan got from Fani that has in turn resulted in Fani going on vacations, hotels, and the like that have nothing to do with this case, her official duties as a prosecutor. Now, this enrichment of Fani is a form of self-dealing. It creates a personal interest for her in this case. In other words, the more work that is done on the case, regardless of what justice calls for, what we've been screaming about here, the more they get paid. If Nathan Wade turns around and says, listen, baby, Fani, honey, you know I love you, okay, but we got to dump this case, okay? There's nothing remotely close to evidence in here that's going to lead to a conviction. This is Nathan Wade speaking. I already had to give Sidney Powell a deal, Jenna Ellis a plea deal. I had to give Kenneth Chesebro and Scott Hall all plea deals, and they're all diversion deals. I couldn't even get a conviction out of those dudes and gals. And so now, honey, Fani, you want me to go against Trump? I can't do it. Baby, I got to dismiss this case. She's like, but we got a cruise next month we're going on. We just bought that new trip to Norway. He's like, I know, but I got other money from my law firm. We'll figure. No, but he's like, hey, I want to fly first class this time. He's like, all right, fine. I guess we'll have another pretrial conference. They schedule it for another court date, right? That's the point. It's prosecution for pay. If he dismisses the case, it's gone. The more they fight Mr. Roman's motions, the more they get paid. The more they refuse to dismiss the defendants who should not be indicted, the more money they make. It's billable hours, baby. And of course, the more money that Wade makes, the more money Fani gets to reap the benefits from. Yeah, first class, man. Don't they know who she is? Now, these benefits are concrete, personal, and they're financial. They're also at odds with her obligation to seek justice. And that's why there is a conflict of interest, regardless of when their relationship began. But it is not just these financial words, Your Honor, that infect this case now. This case is different and everyone knows it. It's not the average case. It's not even an average RICO case. It targets public and private officials and the former president. It has and will continue to garner significant attention. And in this context, it belies belief that Fani would sit for so many media appearances and make so many publicly available statements about this case. All of her statements were calculated to enhance her professional image. She had a book written about her. She even hired a company with public money to track the public perception of her statements. Do they like what I'm saying out there? Perhaps even more alarming is Fani. She gave interviews to two authors writing a book about this case that has now been published and now it's available for public consumption. Fani, for some reason, believed that giving the authors of book access to her staff staff and allowing them to publish this before the trial started should not be scrutinized or questioned. She granted this unprecedented media access so she could taint the jury pool, thus making a conviction much more likely, and use the conviction to open doors for a new political future. Maybe she'll run for governor, and she wanted her rise to fame documented for the world to see, painting up all of Fulton County. Now, they say, Mr. Roman, by the way, says that Nathan Wade's affidavit, which you might call a lie, he said the relationship did not start until 2022. We know that's not true. They call it patently false because they were indicting each other in their judicial robes with their gavels at a conference. So here's what they say. All right, Judge, with all that unfolding before us, we are speeding toward a precipice in this case. In Mr. Roman's view, if we proceed as Fani wants, we're going to all go over the constitutional cliff together. This court has the power to put the brakes on, to inquire further into what's happening here, to hold an evidentiary hearing, and to allow Mr. Roman to question these witnesses so that we don't fall off that cliff. Now, our client, Mr. Roman, a defendant, is asking for nothing more than what the Constitution demands. The state, on the other hand, Fani, would ask this court to go blindly in the dark. They are objecting to everything that we're trying to do to shine a big, beautiful spotlight on this issue. The state's strategy here is obvious and purposeful. They say Fani is trying to do a couple things. One, avoid having to answer any real questions. They use inflammatory, they use dogmatic defensive rhetoric to falsely minimize what's happening here. They also try to avoid answering any actual questions because they don't want Willis to have to testify under oath. They just submitted an affidavit. Oops, that's good enough. They also want Fani to avoid having to answer any real questions by also not addressing any of the financial disclosure problems. And they want to say that the relationship started after he started making money on the case. Not true. They also don't want her to answer any real questions at all. They don't want an evidentiary hearing in the first place. And they want all their subpoenas quashed so that none of their witnesses have to come and testify. How come, Fani, if all of this was above board, if you were doing your job like an actual prosecutor who was following the rules and being honest, none of this would be a problem. You could just show up and explain yourself. But in light of the obvious and the continued strategic obfuscation by Fani and the stonewalling, the adage that the lady doth protest too much, methinks, it rings true. This court has the power and the duty to inquire further into the potential conflict of interest. And our client, Mr. Roman, he submits that the testimony in this case, as proffered below, if allowed, we're going to be able to show that both Fani and Nathan Wade have violated their legal and ethical obligations, and they should be disqualified. Footnote 4 says undersigned counsel Ashley Merchant, who signed this, has a good faith basis to believe that following the filing of Roman's motions on January 8th, Willis and her office asked its employees to sign non-disclosure agreements. Wow! That was confirmed through a news story on WSB Channel 2. So as soon as Roman submits his filing, he says Fani is indicting Wade and Wade's indicting Fani, you know? A lot of indicting going on in Fulton County, and no one's a real defendant in those. But as soon as the story broke, as soon as the motion came in, she says, all right, everybody, time for a team meeting. She calls me like, oh gosh, Fani called us in. It's Friday. You know, hi everybody, this is Fani. I just want you to know I care about you. I just need you to sign this small form. It just says you can't talk about anything you've seen here between me and Nathan Wade for the last 4 years. Cool? Sign it. So that's what happens, right? Now here, they give us some more background. They say here, Roman asks nothing more than an opportunity to present this evidence. That's all. We just want to have a hearing on it so we can shine some light, shine some sunlight, baby, beautiful sunlight down on that conduct. And for these reasons, we ask that you specifically grant an evidentiary hearing, and then after the hearing, grant the motion to dismiss the RICO case and disqualify Willis and Wade. So here are some additional facts. And we like when we get a new additional factual background section on a Wade filing. Doesn't happen all that often, but it's good. Let's see. They say, all right, Judge, just to be clear, a couple of these things up. On February 2nd, the court finally learned that Mr. Roman was correct, proven true, when he asserted that Wade and Willis have been indicting each other. Now, this fact was confirmed in the state's response, they implied, yeah, it's true, but they didn't expressly admit it. Now, this fact was never disclosed. Okay, so boom, we've been proven true. These two are in a relationship, but it has never been disclosed until the state filed its response. The first time we learned about it is when they admitted it, like they didn't voluntarily tell anybody about it until they were forced to. Wade admitted to the relationship expressly, publicly, and under oath, but Willis, Fani, still has not, which is a little inappropriate. You know, don't you do that thing together like if you're a couple, like you hold hands, you're like, you ready? Let's go. You open the doors together. This is our future. Let's go talk to them together. And Wade's like, baby, like you're not even acknowledging me. I acknowledged you. I wrote my affidavit. You said you love me. So, you know, it's going to be a tough Valentine's Day for them. So they continue. They say Willis and Wade, they claim that they did not have a personal romantic relationship before Willis appointed Wade as the special prosecutor. We were innocent. There was no love going on. I appointed him, meaning the appointment was just totally above board. No conflicts there. Then they started their indictments. But Terrence Bradley, aka Bradley, as we'll call him moving forward, he is going to refute that claim. Oh, who is our friend Bradley? Well, Bradley is an attorney and he's a member of the Georgia State Bar. Now, Bradley and Wade, they were friends and they were business associates. And Bradley, he has non-privileged personal knowledge that the romantic relationship between Wade and Willis, it began prior to Willis being sworn as the DA. Wow. So a long time ago, way back before January 2021. Thus, Bradley can confirm that Willis contracted with Wade after Wade and Willis began their indictments, thus rebutting Wade's claim in his affidavit that they did not start dating until 2022, which is a lie. We're talking about the definition of what is again. It's like, oh gosh, we're doing this again. Well, what do you mean a romantic relationship? He's like, we were just, indicting each other. That doesn't mean anything. I indict people all the time. That doesn't mean I'm in a romantic relationship with them. You know what I'm saying? You know where this is going? He's like, Fani, she didn't mean anything to me until she like pinned me down and she's like, I want to be something with you. I see a future together with you, Nathan. He's like, all right, fine. So now we're boyfriend, girlfriend. Okay, fine. So the romantic relationship, right? She talks him into it. And then he says, well, that's what happened in 2022. And they're like, no, bro. That's not how this works. You were indicting her a long time ago. And this indictment happened before she was even the DA. So Bradley obtained information, Bradley got this, about the relationship between Wade and Willis directly from Wade. Wow. When Wade was not seeking legal advice from Bradley. He's like, dude, check this out. Me and the county attorney. Yeah, I know, in our robes. Bradley obtained this information in a personal capacity as Wade's friend prior to Wade's decision to file for the divorce. It's that bro talk, man. While Bradley would later represent Wade for a time in his divorce proceeding, the information in the relationship was obtained prior to any attorney-client relationship beginning. So there's Bradley Wade friend bro talk, and there's Bradley Wade attorney talk. So they say, we're only talking about the bro talk. None of Bradley's testimony will relate to any privileged attorney-client communication. So two bros talking and we're just broing it out. So Bradley also has personal knowledge that Wade and Willis, they regularly stayed together at Fani's home until Willis's father moved into her home sometime in 2020. Yeah, and dad showed up and kicked Nathan out. He's like, are you married? Are you in here fornicating with my daughter? No, not in this household, says dad. Get the hell out of here. And so they throw Nathan out. Now, so that's an interesting witness and we'll hear from him. Now, this guy, right, is going to probably have to testify first to lay some of the foundation to get in some of these other witnesses, as we'll see in the hearing. But big witness, Bradley's going to be a big one. This one, Robin Yurty, aka Yurty, moving out now, was also an employee of Fulton County and also a longtime friend of Willis. Yurty and Willis, they lived together for a time in a residence in Fulton County. When Yurty moved out, Willis continued to live there. Why do they all live together? Like, why don't they have their own places? Willis continued living at the residence. Bradley will confirm that Willis and Wade, they then stayed together at this apartment until her employment was terminated, at which time Willis and Wade began staying in what was commonly known as a, quote, safe house. That's why, because they don't want other people to see them. Rented for Willis. So there was a safe house rented for Willis, and Willis and Wade stayed together at both residences regularly, bouncing around, hiding stuff, right? So Fani staying with Yurty, and who knows how often Yurty's there. Weird. Like, why are they, don't you just have a house that you just live at? Like, why are you bouncing around from all these people? Anyway, so that's what's happening. So we got these two witnesses, Robin Yurty and Bradley, and there are two things that this go to. So first of all, Bradley can say that Nathan Wade's a liar because he said the relationship, the romantic relationship, however you define that, he says it didn't start until 2022. They might have been indicting each other, but it's just simple indictments. Didn't mean anything to anybody. Okay. Then their boyfriend, girlfriend, 2022, however they want to, finagle that. He says, look, I don't care what the testimony is. They were indicting each other a long time ago. So take it for what it's worth, judge. Number two, Robin Yurty, remember they said that they did not cohabitate together. Nathan said we never cohabitated together. This is all above board, whatever. Not true. So Yurty comes in and blows that one out of the water too. We also have some additional invoices. They say since the filing of Mr. Roman's initial motion, his lawyer has obtained additional invoices for Wade. And this has been a big battle, kind of a cat and mouse game. The defense wants access to more information, more data, more materials, more discovery. Fulton County office is just saying, we don't really have access to that. We don't have that. It's not in our possession. And so it's been this, back and forth, this dragging on to get evidence. So here they got some more stuff. They say the Fulton County office has still failed to produce others, but here is what we do you get. So April, 35 grand. May, 40 grand. June, 33 grand. State did not give July. Repeated open records request. They don't have that invoice. It's like, oh my gosh, what kind of office is this? August, 35 grand. September, 34 grand. Invoice 25. Don't have that one. Oops. 37 grand in October, and November is only 16 grand. You know, that's some good money, man, for like a single case, essentially. Now, it's 19 co-defendants, but he gave 4 of them diversion deals. So, like, I don't know what he was doing, because they all got diversion deals, which you can write up. I mean, it's crazy. Like, you can write up a diversion deal. Oftentimes, they write up diversion deals at your very first court date. Like, I can't explain this enough, but the original plea deals, like all of this work, resulted in 4 guilty pleas that will turn into dismissals of the case. So a guilty plea just means they accepted a plea. But the sentence, like the penalty, is going to be a dismissal of those cases. So there will be not any conviction, and there will not even be a guilty plea. There will be no record of their charges. It's called a diversion. Happens all the time. You get it in like first offense shoplifting cases. Oh, you stole something? Okay, here, don't do it again. Take this class, diversion, you're done, right? It's crazy. Like, it's such a low effort, low bandwidth criminal mechanism. You don't even need to do any research, right, to actually get to, and if you're just going to give that away. So I don't know what he was billing for, honestly. Like, well, I'd like to see his logs. I'd love to see his notes, because my guess is there's almost nothing. They don't even have the invoices. Mr. Roman also has been able to obtain details about various trips, and they were on vacation. Like, it's hard to do work when you're on vacation. Wade and Willis, they flew to Miami. They boarded the Royal Caribbean back in October. Wade paid for Willis's flight. They left Atlanta to Miami. They shared a cruise cabin. Wow. Not very professional there. Looking over the ocean on a cruise with your special prosecutor. Incredible. Wade paid a total of $1,200 to American Airlines for both flights. He then paid $1,300 for their shared cabin on the trip, which is cohabitation. So Wade lied to the court. They're laying there together unless he slept outside. He also paid an additional $1,000 to Royal Caribbean during this cruise. I wonder what that was for, you know, in-room entertainment. In total, Wade paid $3,500 for this vacation. That didn't include any transportation. We also had a trip to Aruba in November. It's like, hey, babe, you just come back from the Bahamas, you know? That's a lot of work. Taking a trip to the Bahamas, it's a lot of work. And so, you know, I mean, I've never been fortunate enough to go to the Bahamas, because I'm not prosecuting a former president and stealing $1 million off the taxpayers, but, you know, but I'm sure it's a lot of work. And so as soon as you come back in October, you're going to need another vacation to deal with that. So in November, right after October, the next month, you have to go to Aruba. So let's go to Aruba. Nobody caught us when we went to the Bahamas. So then Wade, literally the next month, November 1st to November 4th, he paid to go to a trip in Aruba. Flights and hotels, Vacation Express for $3,800. Wade also paid an additional $370 to the Hyatt. They also shared a room there, cohabitation again. Now, this does not include transportation. And then, you know, as soon as you're done in November, October, November, that other cruise, you're probably pretty tired, you know, from those 2 cruises. So you know what a great way to recover from your first 2 cruises? A 3rd cruise in December, the next month. Like, this is crazy. December 2022 to January 2023, they take another cruise. This time, they're on a Norwegian. Paid $31.70 for flights and the cruise itself. He got an island Jeep rental for $98. He paid $198 to Rum Runners Freeport, and then paid more money to the Norwegian Cruise Line for $214. In all, he paid $3,600 for this vacation. And it's like month after month. This is what I'm saying. There's no work done on this case. How could you? You know, it's like you got to plan for a trip and Wade took Willis to Belize. Okay, so December goes by. They come back in January. They're like, we should probably get some work done. So then they work a little bit January, a little bit February. They're like, we're exhausted. What do you want to do, sweetheart? Well, you just made 34 grand last month. Let's go on another vacation. Love you. So Wade, he then takes Willis to Belize. Wow, that's fancy. He paid for them to stay at the Phoenix Resort. That was $1,700. Then they went to the Ambergee Grand. That's another $1,000. And look at this. They spent $74 at a tattoo parlor. What did they get? What did Fani get on her big fanny, huh? Is it Nathan Wade? Is it NW with a heart right here on her fanny? What did she get on there? What was that? You know, was it Nathan's face at the tattoo parlor? Amazing. So somebody should audit that. I'd like to know, first of all, what was it and where was it? What were you doing with the tattoo? Could have been a Nathan's hot dog all across the small of her lower back. Nathan's hot dog, her favorite. Also $363 at local restaurants. Yeah, for the hot dogs. You never know. know. So then they come back in March. They're like, all right, we're going to do a little bit of work on April. How many of you, my friends, have not been on vacation in a year or longer than that? They're already in like 5 vacations already, okay? Roughly 2 months later, Wade then took Willis to Napa Valley in May, right? So they take a little bit of time off in April. They come back in May. He then purchased their flights to San Francisco. That was 8/17, 8/40 for their hotel in Napa Valley. And just the trips on this flight is $16.58 as well. So the foregoing trips surely are not the only payments that Wade has made that have personally financially benefited Willis. They say if, as Bradley, the witness, confirms, Willis and Wade, if they were in a romantic relationship before she took office, Wade likely provided Willis with other significant gifts and benefits. Of course, the state and Wade have now filed motions to quash these subpoenas because they don't want us to discover these things. And we'll see if, Fani ultimately testifies. If she had any honor at all, she would have resigned a long time ago. And she might still resign before this hearing takes place on Thursday. I would not be surprised if she did, because it's going to be bloody. Now, Wade also paid for a number of Uber rides associated, but those are not added to the totals. We'll just write off your Ubers. So here we continue. More facts. Now, Willis also gave statements to authors of this book. And of course, what that did is poison the jury pool. She's not supposed to do that. She's a prosecutor. Even Merrick Garland comes out here and he can mutter out these words. We speak through our filings in the court of law. Thanks, Merrick. On January 30th, this group called the Hatchet Book Group, they published this book called Find Me the Votes, a hard-charging Georgia prosecutor, I believe that, and a rogue president, and the plot to steal an election. It should be the plot to steal $1 million from Fulton County, which is actually true. Now, the DA talked about the ongoing case, and she made a number of statements in the book, and apparently those efforts were made to boost her public interest, her image. Another way that she personally benefited from the case. Here are some excerpts from the book. Now, before Willis made the decision to run for DA against Paul Howard, she worried that if she lost, she would end up in financial straits again. She told the authors of the book that she was thinking, she says, quote, I really don't want to be financially effed up again. That's good. So you're running for office so you can make money? Like that's what it is? Okay. Now, the book was not published until January 30th, 2024, so just about 2 weeks ago. And Mr. Roman did not have an opportunity to read the book prior to filing the motion before the deadlines. So Ashley Merchant has just been going hog wild. She's like, I don't have time to read your stupid book, but now I have. Now we're supplementing the record. Now, they say the book, while Miss Willis was on the fence about running for DA, she consulted with Kendall, who is her convicted former boss, and told her a story's going to come out that Paul Howard can't survive. After deciding to run against Paul Howard, Willis claimed that Howard engaged in an egregious abuse of power and that he was just a bully. Now, after becoming the DA and following an interview given by Brad Raffensperger, you remember him, the Georgia Secretary of State, Willis issued a press statement telling the public how she approached the investigation. She wrote letters. The authors explained that Willis was flooded with media requests, and she showed up on the Rachel Maddow show, and we've played that clip here before. In another interview, during Willis's investigation into Fulton County, she also told a reporter, if somebody did something as serious as interfere with somebody's right to vote, we're going to invest in that. Now, it's not clear if Willis disclosed her personal relationship with Wade to the authors. We don't know. But her personal relationship with Wade is not mentioned in the book. Incredibly, the book contains detailed information about a normally secret grand jury proceeding, leading the obvious to question about how the authors got information about this. Apparently, there's a personal biography of the foreperson of the grand jury, and the authors were given full access because they were able to comment on her thought process. The book describes very specific things about special grand juries, which are all supposed to be sealed. It also discussed the disputes amongst grand jurors and other things. Now, the obvious intent of this whole book is to bolster her credibility, check all the boxes, and make her look amazing. It appears as though the authors were given specific information and info about telephone calls where Wade and Willis were the parties. The authors also detail communications, talking about getting obscene and racist messages. Willis also revealed a discussion with a woman who told her God had instructed her to pray with Willis before her big announcement, saying, I sought protection from God. Now, the author's access to Willis and her thoughts did not end at the indictment. Willis has given them a ton of information, saying her team was rushing to prepare. They were holding mock trials. The book readies for conclusion by describing Willis as someone with considerable skills as a prosecutor. I have not seen that at all. And this was before any of the Wade stuff. I mean, we talked about this at the outset, how weak I thought her office was. And we also saw Fani actually do some lawyering, to her credit, which is good. Letitia never did any. Jack Smith doesn't do any. So at least she stood up there and tried to incarcerate Harrison Floyd, and she failed at that. It was embarrassing. It's like, oh my gosh, like obviously that was not going to go your way, Fani. So, right, they're trying to puff her up. Now, the authors they're saying she's bolstering her own abilities. She was going to be like this hero. They were going to parade her around the election and so on. Not anymore. So then she went and she gave a racially charged speech at the church. We're familiar with this. She says, why, God, why? I hired one white white woman who she didn't sleep with. I hired one white man who she didn't sleep with. Racist. Then I hired one black man who she did sleep with. She called everybody a bunch of racists for that decision. All of that is what she said. And there were all sorts of headlines, right? Everybody took her speech where she called all of the defendants racists, and they promulgated that all over the media. Now, the media interpreted Willis's statements as accusing her critics of racism. And there's a bunch of quotes about that. And that's a problem. She's also made numerous extrajudicial statements to the media that's going to inflate her perception in public and prejudice everyone else. Lots of media, various outlets. She's been all over the place 38 times. Her media appearances were part of a concerted and a calculated effort to boost her campaign. And so there's a bunch of examples of this. You can see they are detailing them on that YouTube video linked here. But now we get to some argument. They say, look, Mr. Roman requests we have an evidentiary hearing. We want to talk about this. They say with regard to other inquiries, there's a bunch of stuff that we can dig into. There are a bunch of issues that need to be decided. Wade has conceded in his affidavit, right? Because he just said, I don't need to testify. Here's the truth. Here's what happened. And she says, Ashley Merchant says, sorry, it's not even admissible. It's ex parte. We don't really care what's in it. Now, the issue with regard to the disqualifying interest is the same. Did Willis or Wade receive a personal interest in Mr. Roman's prosecution? That's the question we're trying to answer. And we're going to present evidence related to her misconduct. Willis has made numerous extrajudicial statements, made numerous interviews, and provided with, all sorts of other statements designed to infect and taint the jury pool and interfere with the right to a fair trial. Now, Mr. Roman anticipates presenting evidence from witnesses for whom these subpoenas have been issued. Mr. Roman also anticipates introducing various business records and other materials, including invoices. Georgia law tells about proffers. Now, as shown below in more details, there is a lot of evidence that we can talk about. A lot of case law here, as you can see, talking about the Court of Appeals, United States versus Winkle, saying the court must be able to rely upon counsel's representation that there's a possibility of a conflict. In this case, Mr. Roman and other defendants have given this court plenty of information. Mr. Roman's original motion articulates there is at least a potential conflict, and we've proffered evidence that there was a personal relationship prior to any of this happening. We also, Judge, communicated that Willis and Wade took trips together. There was a financial benefit from the appointment of Wade. Wade and Willis, they intentionally failed to disclose their relationship. They didn't do it until they were forced to, and it's all indicia of their actual conflict. We also highlighted a significant amount of money that Wade has made. He's got irregularities in his invoices. A lot of money that's provided to Wade are significantly more than the other prosecutors got. And so this is why there is a particular conflict here. And so based on the foregoing, they say, Judge, if you fail to conduct an evidentiary hearing, the court will necessarily violate Mr. Roman's due process rights. And so accordingly, we respectfully request that the court conduct an evidentiary hearing and disqualify Fani and Wade. So they say the state here spends considerable time saying that Fani did need to go through the approval process. And so as they wrap up this filing, they're talking about some of the technicalities, right? What did Fani do in order to even get Wade appointed? She failed to get proper approval. And so everything that comes as a result of his illegal appointment needs to go. So here they say, in conclusion, in light of Willis's actions in this case, Fani has failed to remain above suspicion, and in the interest of preserving Roman's rights, the court should order the disqualification of Willis, her office, and all of the specially appointed prosecutors. Signed and submitted by the very great and extraordinary defense attorney Ashley Merchant out of Georgia, doing awesome work on this and blowing the lid off the whole thing. And so that is what has been submitted. Now, there was a hearing on this motion that we're going to cover in the next segment, so click over there if you want to catch that one. But there's other updates in Georgia, including this concept about accepting service on a subpoena. Fani Willis apparently doesn't know how to do that. Remember that she's also been subpoenaed, not only in Fulton County, but by Congress. Jim Jordan and others are saying, we want to know if any of that money that you funneled over to Nathan Wade is Fed government money, those federal funds that we can claw back. Well, Jordan sent her a subpoena. We've read that here on this channel previously, and now she has ignored it. So apparently they sent over the U.S. Marshals to hand deliver it to her personally. Okay, Jim Jordan sent a subpoena back previously, but Willis did not accept the subpoena after it was emailed. So the U.S. Marshals had to go serve it to her themselves. Someone asked, why wouldn't Fani just accept service like anyone else? I don't know. Like, are you fleeing the country, Fani? Like, they're gonna find you. Are you gonna go to your safe house? You're a government official. Hello. Making the U.S. Marshal Service use taxpayer money to do this is a complete waste of time. Fulton County's office did not immediately respond to this, and the House Judiciary Committee is the entity that demanded access to some of that additional personal information. And so they sent her a subpoena that apparently she is ignoring. So not a good move, but it's Fani we're talking about. Our friend Julie Kelly on the X platform at Julie_Kelly2, who's a great follow and does great work at declassified.live. I'd encourage you to check that out. She posted this. She says, oops, these lawyers just admitted that Fani Willis is also getting help from outside attorneys to write her filings. Like, why is that? You have a whole attorney's office there called the Fulton County Attorney's Office. So here is what they said.
Yeah, the writing's been splendid, notably so. This 176-page motion actually got an assist. I don't know exactly who it was, but there have been some outside lawyers who've been joining the cause. You know, we have just everything is so different and they're in a fishbowl, but that includes then people who want to be helpful if they can. In terms of the overall lawyering of the case, I see, you know, I think it's been solid, though I have from the start thought, wow, charging it as a RICO has a lot of implications, and I care the most about speed, and I think it's a big vehicle to try to lumber down the road and also be quick.
RICO is kind of dumb because what happens now is you've got now 19 lawyers who are all digging into this stuff, and one of them's going to crack something, one of them's going to find something. Ashley Merchant did that, but pretty amazing that there are outside lawyers coming in. That means that other lawyers are like us here watching this train wreck. Now, we're not offering our assistance to Fani, but we've seen this train wreck coming from a mile away. And so a bunch of other, you know, probably lefty lawyers are all piling in here. You might want to try this. You might want to do this. You might want to do that, because they're so interested in getting a conviction before the election. So this is also now what's happening in Georgia. Apparently senators are digging into this, talking about reviewing Fani Willis. So she's not only dealing with it in the courts, but also dealing with it in the congressional branch and the bodies there in Georgia. Here's the report from 11 Alive in Georgia.
First tonight at 6 today, a state Senate committee started its investigation into the Fulton County District Attorney's Office. This committee is now looking into what some members are calling prosecution for profit.
They're examining a personal relationship between the Fulton County District Attorney and a special prosecutor hired to take on the election interference case against former President Donald Trump and others. 11 Alive's Doug Richards is live at the Capitol with more tonight. Doug?
Yeah, you know, the creation of this committee last week had a rather strong partisan whiff to it, with Republicans supporting the creation and the Democrats opposing it. Today, when the committee actually met for the first time, lawmakers sort of masked it with rhetorical, maybe perfume, which kept that whiff down to a dull roar. The Republicans outnumbered Democrats 2-1 on the 9-member special committee on investigations. On this first day, Republicans stressed how much they included Democrats on the rules and procedures as the panel investigates Fulton DA Fani Willis.
We have both parties included in this committee for a reason. We are serious about the business we're conducting. We're not doing this for publicity. This is a quest for the truth.
Republican Bill Cowsert of Athens will lead the panel, which will have subpoena power, will take sworn testimony, and will encourage confidential informants to come forward.
Wow.
It will raise
That's almost like a little, J6 committee.
questions about DA Willis and her personal relationship with Special Prosecutor Nathan Wade. Together, they are pursuing criminal election interference charges against former President Donald Trump and a list of co-defendants. Democrat Gloria Butler says she's willing to give the Trump allies on the panel the benefit of the doubt for now.
It is my hope that this committee conduct itself in a responsible fashion and pursue the truth.
Yeah, that's what they're going to do, Gloria. You're right. Hopefully they do that. We agree.
Given that you will seek testimony from Fani Willis?
It's not a given.
No.
If I will certainly give her the opportunity, and if I were her, I would want to be heard.
If Willis were to testify, Cowsert says that Republicans would have, in his words, no prejudgments about whatever it is that she would bring to the table testimony-wise. Cowsert told us today that he expects the work of this committee to go on for months, well past the adjournment of the legislative session underway now that's due to expire in late March. We're live at the Capitol tonight.
All right, so
attention to the vital.
They are going to have a full-blown hearing on that thing, and that's going to be very interesting to watch as the evidence continues to come out, exposing Fani Willis. The biggest Fani in Georgia is in some serious hot water, right? Every day we come back here, there's even more evidence. Now we've got a 66-page supplemental, and we have a hearing coming up, which we're going to hear in the next segment. So stick around or click over to the next segment because we got the full hearing. Judge Scott McAfee listened to all this, read it, and then came to his conclusion. The hearing is on. And so make sure you're subscribed, my friends, wherever it is you're watching this. Thanks for liking this video and joining us, because the Fani Wade saga is only just now heating up, and we're going to continue to cover cover it along with all of the other Trump indictments. Thank you for joining us as we do. And while you're here, don't forget to check out some of the links down in the description below, including watcherlodge.com. We have a great event coming up this Friday called Political Zen Wellness, and we're going to be doing a lot of fun stuff with our friend Jason Campbell. So go follow the link, sign up, make sure you come back here. We'll see you back on the next one.